Suppose you have this. Y is equal to some function of x, f of x, divided by g of x. And let's assume that g of x is not 0, because you can't divide by 0. So for the permissible values of x, for the domain of x, let's just assume g of x is not 0. Okay. So in this case, the derivative is given again. It's by a somewhat complicated formula. It's not very intuitive. But here is the formula that works. In this case, dy dx is equal to the derivative of the numerator, f prime of x, times the denominator, g of x, minus the derivative of the denominator, g prime of x, times the numerator, f of x, all over, it's not very intuitive at all, is it? All over the denominator squared. Okay. That is the quotient rule. And you use that when you're differentiating the ratio of two functions. Okay. Let me just take a very simple example. In lieu of giving you a proof, let me give you a very simple example which you can easily see is true. And that'll make you feel a little more comfortable about this in lieu of a more formal proof. Suppose we have something like this. Y is equal to x cubed divided by x squared. Well, obviously, we could simplify that expression to what? Yeah, y is just equal to x because you just divide through by x squared, and you just get y equals x. So we know that dy dx is what? dy dx, this one's so easy it's almost hard, 1. Because if you bring down the exponent, it's a 1 times x to the 0. X to the 0 is just 1, so it's 1. dy dx is just 1. Okay. But suppose you're having a mental block during an exam, and you didn't see that. Okay, you didn't see that you could do that. You could use the quotient rule. And what would the quotient rule give you? Well, the quotient rule says, note again, we have x cubed over x squared. So think of f of x as being x cubed. Think of g of x as being x squared. So it's f of x over g of x. Just apply the quotient rule. Then what is f prime of x? Not 2x squared, but what is the derivative of the numerator with respect to x? Heather, I think you said it. Yeah, 3x squared. You bring that 3 down, multiply it times x to the 3 minus 1 power, so it's 3x squared. That is your f prime of x. But you multiply that times g of x, so what are you going to multiply that times? X squared. Minus, what is g prime of x? 2x. Okay, here's g of x. So g prime of x is just 2x. Times f of x, which is x cubed. All over g of x squared. So what would g of x squared be? Just be x to the 4th. X squared times x squared is x to the fourth. All right, let's see if we can simplify this numerator, see if it does turn out to be 1. So this is 3x to the fourth, isn't it? When you multiply this, you get 3x to the fourth. When you multiply minus 2x times x cubed, oops, what? There's something, is this right? Okay, right, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, when you multiply this, what am I doing? This is minus 2x to the fourth. Thank you. I told you. All over x to the fourth. So 3x to the fourth minus 2x to the fourth is x to the fourth. So it's x to the fourth over x to the fourth. So it is equal to 1. So it works. I thought I was in trouble there for a second. Okay. All right. That is the quotient rule.